Hi there, welcome to my channel. I'm Jennifer Kirk and we're going to be doing a box opening and review today. In fact, today it's going to be a special one. We've got a little bit of a twofer, so two for the price of one. So without further ado, let's take a look. There's a bit of a two for deal here. I've bought for myself two of the new Hornby hopper wagons, and these in particular took my interest because for my next modelling project I've been thinking about doing a model of Kirby Stephen East Station, and one of the signature things that used to trek across the Stainmore route was coal and coke in these particular type of hoppers. The catalogue numbers, we've got R6808 and 6809, the BR 21 tonne hopper wagons. And I've picked two different, quite distinctively different liveries. These were originally introduced by the London and North Eastern Railway, and their building did keep going into the BR period. A lot of these came from the Shildon Wagon Works, not very far from the Stainmore route. They lasted long enough to get TOPS codes, and latterly were coded as HTO, and also some of the vacuum brake examples HTV as well. But let's see if we can get into this. Actually, that's quite a tight box there. It doesn't seem to want to open. So let's go and have a look at the other one then, see if we can get into this. Well, we just had to stop actually because these tabs are really tricky to pop on out without damaging the box, but we've got in there in the end. So, as I was saying, those of you who are familiar with the output of Hornby 00, they introduced right at the very end of their production before they went bust a model of this particular type of wagon, and it's actually very, very sought after now. It's one of the few wagons that my father and I never actually managed to pick up in our time collecting, but the mouldings for that passed on to the Wren range, and there was a Wren version that was in production for an awfully long time. But this particular wagon is all new tooling from Hornby, and I have to say, first impressions are that the plastic top is very, very finely done, and unlike the Hornby 00 and latterly Wren model, all the flanges are very, very thin, and I just immediately am blown away with the finesse of the detail. This looks to me to be a very, very accurate rendition of this very, very numerous coal hopper wagon that was in use on first of all, the London and North Eastern Railway, and then latterly the British Rail, right through, I think they lasted through into the 1980s. And by that point, they were pretty much life expired. And some of the customers that were still using traffic flows that needed these wagons, it was about the point that the traffic was encouraged by British Rail to find other means, usually to road transport, because they didn't want the upfront expense of upgrading the wagon fleet to be able to still use those kind of facilities, and the customers that were using them didn't want to spend the money on upgrading the actual unloading facilities for these wagons. And it was unfortunately one of the things that did tend to happen on British Rail through the 1980s. Anyway, let's have a good close look at this wagon. We've got a number of separately applied detail. We can see things like the brake levers there. They're really nicely done, and it's something that's actually markedly different from the Wren Hornby 00 offering of previous decades. We've got some very, very fine, I think that's a plastic piece, but I'm not sure, I don't want to push it too hard. We've got separately applied handrails along the edge there. Those do feel like they're a metal insert. And one of the things that really did let down the Hornby 00 Wren model was it had like a plastic flange across above the sole bar there, and that is not evident on this particular model. We've got a nice see-through chassis. It's a very sort of spindly affair, but I like that. That is just like how the original full-size wagons would have been. So you can see a lot of daylight through underneath there. The plastic doesn't look too chunky. And we've also got a pretty good rendition of the bottom of the hoppers, the unloading mechanism. These don't actually open, but they do look as fine enough that they probably could if Hornby had decided to tool it that way. And I'm really, really impressed. And the brakes on these wagons only act on one side of the wagon, so you can see we've got an accurate representation of brake shoes on this side only. They're a clasp brake, so they kind of pinch onto the wheel, but we've got handbrake levers on both sides, so for ease of operation of shunting staff, the handbrake could be put on from both sides, even though it's actually only acting on one. The couplings are in NEM pockets, and we've got these Hornby slimline tension lock couplings with a great deal of, we've got some good movement in there. The Hornby ones do seem to be ever so slightly longer than the Bachmann ones, which is in no great shakes, but certainly it can be improved if you want your wagons to sit slightly closer together. You can put the Bachmann couplings into the Hornby wagons and it just brings them that little bit closer together. The buffer heads are turned metal. They're not sprung, but are very, very finely done. They're firmly in there, unlike some of the Oxford rail wagons that we've reviewed recently. And then we've got some very, very fine, we've got these white painted steps on either end, on either side. And there's an awful lot of really nice rivet detail. The rivets as well, you know, we always joke about rivet counters, but I think rivet counters are going to be very, very pleased to find that they're very, very well realised in the mould and quite crisp. And certainly the thing about rivet detail can be that to get them scale size, sometimes they don't really come out well from the mould, but if they're made oversized to make them nice and crisp, they can look a little bit weird. But Hornby have managed to run the gauntlet of that minefield and get them just right. The livery application on this is a very distinctive red. We've got Coalite fuels. I'm not entirely sure whether wagons in this particular livery would have run on the main line or whether these are internal users. But certainly to give a bit of variety to the wagon fleet, it's a nice change to the otherwise rather boring greys that the rakes would otherwise be in. It's finished here in the number 195. We've got the really nice rendition of the stencil on the side. There's not really a lot of other detail. We've got some information there on the wagon sole bar with the tear weight. In fact, no, that's not the tear weight. That's the wagon's body number reprinted there. And we've got a little bit of information there for these will be the unloading levers for the hopper mechanism underneath. Looking down inside, it's again well realised, and we've got a lot of internal detail, which is something that you don't often see because of the nature of the way that these wagons come out from the moulds. And that is really, really nice to see. Now, as I said to you before, this is a two-for review. I didn't feel that it was necessary to do two separate box openings and reviews for this particular type of wagon, so I thought that I would include in this particular video a second completely different livery. So we've gone over the actual construction of the wagon, and as we can see looking there on the underside, it's exactly the same style of wagon as the Coalite hopper. We've got the brakes acting on one side. It's come out exactly the same mould, so there's not really anything to add with that. It's got the same degree of finish, but we've got it finished in the BR sort of late 1960s through to the 1970s period, with the details there. Hop 21. This was kind of the late BR pre-tops designation for these particular types of wagons, and then we've got its number there with the E to denote that it's a former London and North Eastern Railway wagon. We've got an awful lot more information tampo printed on the side, and what's interesting is we've got the wagon builder plate tampo printed in there, which is something that's not on the Coalite fuels wagons, so it would be interesting to know. I'd have to go and do a lot of research for that, but it may well be that this has been built by a private builder to the same design as these that came out of, I believe, Shildon Wagon Works, but certainly the macro lens will hopefully pick up a lot more of the detail from that build plate. We've also got a lot of information here, tempo printed to the underside of the hopper, and there's a lot more information there, tempo printed into the wagon sole bar. It's also interesting to note that, just take a look at the wording on that stenciled on the sole bar. It says, "This sign is far too small to read, good luck." And I'm not entirely sure whether that's a joke from whoever set up the tempo printer, or that is a faithfully copied from the full-sized wagon. But either way, that's quite a nice little thing to discover, because it's actually impossible for me to read that with my bare eyes, and we've had to put on a special macro lens to see that. Everything else is pretty much the same. We've got the same handrail detail on there, the same buffer detail, and really the grey actually does highlight some of this rivet detail really, really nicely. And it does look remarkably clean, and I suspect that Hornby will be introducing some ready weathered versions of these wagons. They are available in single wagons, as we saw here today, but they've also done triple packs, which aids the modeller to build up a large rake relatively quickly. And they've brought them out in the tops livery as HTO. These actually sold out incredibly quickly, incredibly fast. And even though that is the version that I myself would have preferred, I haven't been able to find any. They've been completely sold out everywhere, and that's really a good sign, because these are bread and butter wagons that I can see being in the Hornby stable for a good long time to come, and become as numerous as things like the Bachmann 16-ton mineral wagons. So hopefully this will prove to be a good little earner for Hornby, which is something that the company has so desperately needed of late. And I'm more than pleased with the end result of these, and I'm going to be buying some more of these as and when I find them available in the shops. The other livery which I have seen available, I've seen them in the earlier BR period without the Hop 21 logo on there. And also I believe that some of the, perhaps some NCB internal user wagons are in the offing for coming out as some of the future releases that Hornby have planned. Overall, I would give these a very, very solid 9.2 out of 10 on my completely made up on the spur of the moment sliding scale. But certainly for anybody modelling from the London and North Eastern Railway late period all the way through to probably mid to late 1980s, this is a type of wagon which were numerous and widespread across Britain's railways, and certainly are a necessary addition for anybody's wagon fleet. Well, I hope that was really informative to you. Thanks again for watching this video, and don't forget to like this channel, it's very, very important, and share it too. Let other people know about this video and the content therein, and also subscribe to the channel, that's really important too, and you can be the first to know about new videos as and when they go up. But anyway, this is me, Jenny Kirk, saying until next time, you take very good care of yourself, and bye for now. If you liked today's video, please consider checking out my Patreon page, where you can help me to keep making the videos that you love. Thank you. Today's video has been brought to you by my books, Bringing Home the Stars, Twinkle Little Star, and also you can get the complete comic collections of All Over the House, Books 1, Books 2, and also the wacky zany Life of Knob T Mouse. Thanks, and catch you later.